Okay, it's story time. So today's story is going to be Jack and the Beanstalk.
What about the old man?
We'll do that another time. Let's do Jack and the Beanstalk first.
Okay.
Oh, I remember. It's the old story.
Yeah?
Do the old man.
So there's a little boy named Jack, and he lived in a small little cabin by himself with his mom. We don't know what happened to his dad. We don't know where his dad is, but we know that he and his mom live alone, and they're very poor. Do you know what poor means?
Yeah, no, not that much food.
Or yes, so they don't have money, and if they don't have money, they can't buy food. So they didn't have
And they
very much
can't
food.
buy toys.
And he can't buy toys. So Jack and his mom were very poor. But Jack's mom had enough money to go buy some bread. Jack's mom gave him some money and said, Jack, go to the bakery in town, go to the bakery and buy some bread and then come back. So she gave Jack the money to buy the bread. And Jack took the money and he said, yes, Mom, I'll go buy the bread. So Jack went to town. He left the house. He walked down the street, down the dirt road, and then he got into town. And before he got to the bakery, he saw a man standing up in a cart, and he was selling something. He was selling magic beans. And the man would say, I got magic beans, magic beans. Come see these wonderful magic beans. And Jack came and he looked, but nobody else was looking and nobody else was listening. But Jack was very interested. He wanted to hear what was going on. So the man said, I'm selling magic beans. And Jack says, what do the magic beans do? And the man said, they're magic. He didn't answer Jack's question. So Jack said, how much does the magic beans cost? And then the man said, how much money do you have? Jack says, I have $4. I need to buy bread with $4. The man who was selling the magic beans said, today is your lucky day because the magic beans cost $4. So Jack bought the magic beans for $4. And he took the little bag with magic beans and he took it home. And when he got home, he said, Mommy, look, I bought magic beans. And his mom said, bought magic beans? With what money? And he said, the money that you gave me to buy bread. And Jack's mom got really upset. She said, you used the money I gave you to buy bread and you used it to buy magic beans? And she threw it out the window. And she sent Jack to bed with no food because he didn't buy the bread. So Jack went to sleep. And while Jack was sleeping and his mom was sleeping, the magic beans grew. And they grew and grew and grew and they got bigger and bigger and bigger and
And that's the beanstalk.
Yes, and it turned into a giant beanstalk. But Jack was sleeping and his mom was sleeping. Nobody saw it. So in the morning, Jack woke up and he looked out his window. And he saw this giant beanstalk. It looked like a big green vine, but it's a lot of vines. And they're twisted together and they go up, up, up to the sky. So Jack was like, whoa, I wonder how high this beanstalk goes. So Jack went outside. He started climbing the beanstalk to see how high it went. And he climbed and climbed and climbed. And he climbed past the top of his house. And he climbed and climbed and climbed. And he climbed past where the birds were flying. And then he climbed and even more. He climbed even more. And he climbed up past the clouds. And when Jack was like, whoa, it's really high. And then Jack kept climbing. And then he passed the clouds. And then he saw some ground, some land. So Jack climbed up and he went to the land. And everywhere was this really big grass. The leaves were huge. They're like as big as Jack. And Jack was like, this is strange. So Jack started walking around. And then he saw this giant house. And he went up the steps of the giant house. And he had to climb up the steps because the steps were so big. And he climbed up the steps and he found a giant living room. And then he went to the giant kitchen. And everything was big. The chairs were big. The tables were big. Jack climbed up the chair. And then he went on the chair. And then he jumped onto the table. And he's walking around with a giant bowl on the table. And Jack was like, the bowl is bigger than me. I could go in the bowl. And then Jack was looking at the giant cup. And while he was looking at the giant fork, Jack heard boom, boom, boom. Somebody was coming into the kitchen. And they were huge. Every time the person took a step, the place shaked. Boom, boom. So Jack got scared. and he went and he hid behind the bowl that is on the table. And when Jack peeked out, there's a giant looking at him. And the giant said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell a little one." And Jack got really scared. He bent down, he's hiding. And then the giant said, "Come out, little one. Come out." And Jack knew that he should not come out. And then Jack decided, "I'm going to run." And Jack ran from behind the bowl. And he jumped onto the floor and started running. And then the giant saw Jack, and Giant said, "I see you, little one. I am going to eat you. I love to eat little people." And he started running after Jack. Boom, boom, boom. And Jack ran as fast as he could. But the good thing is, Jack was a good runner. And Jack could run really fast.
Is he faster than me?
Jack is just as fast as you, Chris. And Jack ran.
Same fast as me?
Just as you, yes. And Jack was running really fast, but the giant had really big legs. Boom, 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 getting close. But Jack was fast, and Jack was running really fast. And he got outside, and then he got to the beanstalk, and he started climbing down the beanstalk. And then Jack started going down.
He's going really fast down?
Yes, Jack was climbing down really fast. And the giant said, "Come here, little one. You are not going to escape. I'm going to get you, and I'm going to eat you.
For dinner.
For dinner." So he started climbing down the beanstalk after Jack. But he was slower because he was so big, he had to be careful. The beanstalk started swaying when he got on the beanstalk. Because he was so heavy. But Jack was lighter and faster. So Jack was going down the beanstalk really fast.
So he doesn't fall.
He didn't fall. Jack didn't fall. So Jack went all the way down. He climbed past the clouds. He climbed down past where the birds were, past the roof of his house, and he got to the floor. And Jack went down, and then Jack looked up, and the giant was still coming down the beanstalk. And Giant was like, "I am going to eat you, little one." And Jack knew what he had to do. He ran inside his house, and he got a big axe for chopping wood. And then he came outside, and he started chopping the beanstalk. Chop, chop, chop. And the giant was getting closer and closer, and he was still pretty high. And the giant got past the clouds, and he was part where the birds were flying. And Jack started chopping really fast, chop, 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 because he knew he could not allow the giant to come down to the ground. Because if the giant came down to the ground, not only would he eat Jack, he would eat Jack's mom and all of Jack's friends in town. And Jack knew that the giant...
And he'll destroy this house.
Yes. So Jack kept chopping, and he started chopping as hard as he could. And then he eventually chopped right through the beanstalk. And then the beanstalk started to creak and sway, and the giant was up there and go, "Whoa." And the giant was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." And then the beanstalk cracked and it fell. Boom. And the giant fell on the ground, and everywhere shook and made a huge sound. And the giant was dead because he was so heavy and he fell from so high. And everybody from around town wanted to see what was that loud noise. And they came to see what made that big noise. And they saw Jack standing close to the giant with an axe in his hand. And they saw the dead giant. And they saw what Jack did. And ever since that day, they called Jack the Giant Killer. And Jack was not poor from that time on.
But I'm poor.
Yeah, everybody wanted Jack to come and cut down the trees near their house because they saw how good Jack was at cutting down the beanstalk. And Jack and his mom lived a comfortable life from that point on, until he saw the guy selling more magic beans. But that's for a different story. Okay?
Can I do the old man then?
The end.
Do the old man. Do the old